Hi and welcome to episode 3 of season 5 of A Brief History of Nothing on the 4th of October 2016. And what happened on this day?
Well, in 1795, General Napoleon Bonaparte leads a rout of counter-revolutionaries in the streets of Paris, beginning his rise to power, which would last the next 20 roughly years.
Which went so well for him in the
Yes,
end.
it did. That was in 1795. In 1863, Lincoln proclaimed the Thanksgiving holiday, and many Americans, Lincoln proclaimed the official Thanksgiving holiday.
Yes.
So many Americans would be thankful for that. Orville Wright pilots the first flight longer than 30 minutes. The flight lasted 33 minutes, 17 seconds, and he covered 21 miles. Interestingly enough, a few days earlier, he also took the altitude record of approximately 1,200 feet, beating the previous record of just over 500 feet.
Yes.
Now, that was in 1905. 9 years later, the Germans sent Zeppelins, large airships, over to bomb London for the first time on this day in 1914. In 1917, the American Congress passed the War Revenue Act, funding its entry into World War I. And in 1957, Sputnik 1, the first man-made artificial satellite, orbited the Earth. It weighed the grand total of 184 pounds, which would be what in...
184 pounds is some kilograms, I can't think.
What, roughly 90 kilograms? 85 to 90 kilograms?
Something like that. I'll get a calculator out later and I'll figure it out.
Yeah, and yes.
It's a man-made artificial satellite as opposed to a man-made natural satellite?
Yes, it got to a height of 584 miles, which is, what, about 200 k's up?
No. Kilometres are littler than miles.
Oh, that's right, so it'd be about 1,000 k's then.
Nearly, because there's 1.6 kilometres to mile. 1.6 kilometres to a mile. So
yeah, so over 1,000 kilometres up.
Yeah, pushing 1,000 k's up. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, as they say, war can be a bit of a strange thing. Strange things can happen in war, and of course, when you have all your men fighting out, and this is in World War II we're referring to, when you have all your men fighting out, a lot of countries then turn to women to be on the home fronts and do a lot of the stuff at home. Interesting lady here, Charity Edna Adams, highest ever, I think, was she highest ever?
She's the highest ranked woman, African-American woman in World War II. She ended up a lieutenant colonel.
Which, very, very strange, because basically at the time, African-American people were treated like doormats.
Yes, well, African-American men were treated like doormats. The women were treated something worse.
Yeah, they were treated like the dust underneath the doormat. Yeah. She was born on December 5th of December 1918, and her parents were, her dad was a pastor who spoke fluent Greek and Hebrew, and her mum was a teacher. And she actually did quite well for herself educationally, regardless of circumstances. Graduated high school and was accepted into the Wilberforce College majoring in physics and mathematics, and did a master's in vocational psychology. And in, was it 1942, June of 42,
yes,
she was accepted into the WWAC.
Yes.
Into obviously not expecting much, because again the African American women were basically...
Well, yes, they only called on African American women because they had exhausted all other avenues, and then they realised they had these pool of able-bodied women that could fill in jobs that were otherwise not being used because so many people were away.
She was actually, interesting fact here, she was actually posted in Des Moines, I think that's how you pronounce it. Des Moines, sorry. English is hard, French is even harder.
Iowa. Yes, into a mixed group of 25 black and white women. Of course, they would have been separated real fast because segregation was the order of the day. Yeah. But her claim to fame was that she took over running section of the postal service, and where the mail had been backed up for months and months because of not enough people to do the job. Her and her team of African American Women's Army Corps people got the mail running very efficiently, and she insisted that because of the endemic racism that was about, that all of her charges were dressed impeccably whenever out in public, so no one had a cause to pick on them for their lack of dress. And she even instigated a discrimination case against her superior.
Yes, because didn't like they said, oh, you're doing it efficiently, we're going to replace you with a white officer, and she said, oh, you're my dead body.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yes, one of her higher-ups said that they were going to replace her with a more efficient white officer, considering that she had the most efficient section in the post at that time.
Yeah.
Yes, so
it was either that or the problem would just get worse and worse.
Yes, so yes, the woman made it purely on her skills.
Yeah, despite her the horrible racism of the day.
Yes.
And sexism.
Yes. Now another interesting lady from World War II, and look, I'm about to murder Russian in a really big way. So okay.
Yeah, English is hard. German is hard. Russian
is ridiculous.
No, it's not going to work.
Maria
Vasilyenva, I think.
Yes. Anyway,
sorry if there's anyone in Russia that just went. It's just doing that right now. We're sorry.
Yeah, she was born on the 16th of August 1905 in Crimea. Essentially, she was born to a peasant serf family. Serfdom, if you don't know, is essentially indentured slavery. They were property of the landowner.
Yeah, pretty much.
They couldn't do anything without. Unfortunately for her, the Russian Revolution came along,
which communism generally wasn't the best idea we've ever had, but if you're a serf, it seemed like paradise.
Yes, yes, it was a big step up from what you got. Now, she was one of 10 children. She, in 1925, met the love of her life. I would say this is Ilya. Have a go at that.
Okay, Ilya Oktyabrsky, I think.
Yeah, I'm going with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
He was a Russian army officer, and once Maya?
She did.
Yes, once she met him and they started going out, she became fascinated with all things military. Must have had some wingding dates.
Yeah.
Can I take you for a drive in my truck? Yeah.
Yes, let's go to the local barracks. Okay.
Yeah, anyway, so she did a couple of things. When they were married, she joined the Women's Military Wives Council and trained to be a nurse, and also learned to drive a car. And in 20s Russia, that was very unusual.
Yeah.
So her and her husband couldn't have children, so she had two great loves in her life, her country. She was extremely patriotic, and her husband. That pretty much came to an end in 1941. The Germans invaded Russia in Operation Barbarossa. Her husband was killed in August. It's in June 1941 they invaded. He was killed in August 41. She didn't find out for another 2 years because she'd been moved to Siberia for safety. So it took 2 years to find out about her husband's death. She just went berserk.
Yeah.
She sold everything she had. She deposited 50,000 rubles into the National Bank and then wrote a letter to Stalin saying that, and I quote, my husband was killed in an action defending the motherland. I want revenge on the fascist dogs for his death and the death of the Soviet people tortured by the fascist barbarians. For this purpose I have deposited all my savings, 50,000 rubles, into the National Bank in order to build a tank. I kindly ask that the tank is named Fighting Girlfriend and to send me to the front line as the driver of this tank. We don't know why Stalin agreed to her request. maybe he was scared that she'd come after him next. Not sure. But anyway, she was duly trained as a tank driver, and on the 21st of August 1943, in Smolensk, Maria, or whatever her name is, revved up her tank, the Fighting Girlfriend, and charged into the battle. Her tank was hit, and against orders she jumped out of the tank, fixed the tank, got back into the tank and kept on fighting. She did this 3 more times in battles.
Yeah.
And then on the 3rd time her luck ran out when she was out fixing the tank after being hit by an anti-tank shell. She was sprayed with shrapnel from a second anti-tank shell, and she lay in hospital for 2 months, never regaining consciousness, and died on the 15th of March 1944.
See, to get out and then fix your tank so you can keep going, she must have been pretty angry.
Yeah, I think she was packing a cranky. Yes. She knew one way forward. Go.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so she died without regaining consciousness, and she was awarded the honour of being a hero of the state after the end of World War II. So one...
Yes, very heroic lady.
Yes. 2 very heroic ladies in very different ways.
Very different ways. Having to, at the time again, because there was a lot of sexism.
Well, yes, in a period of great sexism and in racial discrimination, 2 women have got through against the odds. Now, who had a birthday today?
Who had a birthday just the other day, 1289. Louis X, the Stubborn, King of France.
Yes, well, has there been a Louis that's been different from that, really?
Not really. No, not really.
Yes. In 1626, young chap named Cromwell, young Richard, he went on to become Lord Protector of England. He was born on this day in 1626. Now, everybody's heard of Grace Kelly, the film star, considered one of the most beautiful women ever. In 1889, her father, John B. Kelly, Olympic rower, his main claim to fame was Grace,
yes,
was born on this day in 1889. Now, for all those Australians and anybody who has an interest in Australian politics, Jim Cairns, an Australian politician, he was a minister in the Whitlam government, among other things. Probably the thing most people remember him for was his affair with his secretary, Jeannie Morosi.
Yeah, he basically did a Clinton.
Yeah, before it was fashionable.
Yeah, he did a Clinton before it was cool.
Yeah, he was born in 1914. Now, Moses, Charlton Heston, he was born on this day in 1923.
You've probably seen all the memes with Charlton Heston, yes.
Yep. In 1937, Jackie Collins, sister of Joan Collins and best-selling author in her own right, was born on this day in London in England. And in 1976, Alicia Keys, actress. You've heard of her, I'm assuming?
I'm sure. Alicia Silverstone.
Alicia Silverstone, not Keys. Yes, Alicia Silverstone. I got my Alicias mixed up.
You got your Alicia's mixed up.
Yes.
Yes, we're not also talking about Pink. We're talking about Alicia Silverstone.
Yes.
Yes. In Clueless, most people have probably seen it or have heard of the movie. Born in San Francisco. All right. Well, that's us for another night. If you like us, actually hit like. If you didn't like us, inflict us on your friends on Facebook.
It's his fault if you don't like us.
Okay. It's his fault.
Okay. And we'll see you on the dark side.
He has cookies.
Okay.
Bye.
Toodles.